All right, Corey, what's next?
Next up, Davis Sickles. Hey, John, love the show. My question is, how did Black Panther get a Best Picture nomination without even getting nominated for any of the other major award categories, acting, directing, and screenwriting? It's the only Best Picture nominee in recent years not to have at least one. I like the movie, but the Best Picture nomination seems suspicious and possibly political to me. Thanks, and keep bringing the filthy.
Well, I mean, look, one of the first things I want to say is we as human beings, we are quick to ascribe excuses as to why other people didn't do what we think they should do. Look, the Academy gave Black Panther the Best Picture nomination because they felt it deserved a Best Picture nomination. I don't necessarily agree. I think it's a great movie. I think there were other comic book movies this year that maybe deserved its spot in front of it. But let's not make excuses as to why a group of people didn't see the things the same way we did. Okay, so let's just that out of the way. It is interesting. Rob, I find this fascinating. Buckle up, hear me out, because this is some really interesting stuff. You know, there are things that go into making a movie a great movie. Great direction, great screenplay, great acting by your lead and your supporting characters, great cinematography. These are the categories. You know, I've got a partner here at the stream, my business partner here, who is a voting member of the Academy, has been for decades, and she will tell us. The Academy itself kind of considers the major categories, other than Best Picture: directing, lead actor, actress, supporting actor and actress, adapted screenplay, original screenplay, and cinematography. These are the ones they generally consider to be the major categories.
Sure.
Black Panther, again, I'm just pointing something out. I leave it to you to come to your own conclusions. Black Panther was not considered by the Academy to be one of the best directing jobs of the year, not considered by the Academy to have one of the best actors or actresses in a leading or supporting role, not considered by the Academy for a best adapted screenplay thing, and not considered by the Academy to be one of the best of cinematography. So Black Panther becomes the only film this year to be nominated for Best Picture without a nomination in any of the other major categories. Every other film nominated for Best Picture this year has at least one nomination in one of those major categories. But it gets even more interesting than that, Robert. In the last 10 years, do you know how many films have been nominated for Best Picture in the last 10 years?
How many films total?
Yeah, how many films in total in the last 10 years have been nominated for Best Picture?
Off the cuff, I would say 40?
89. 89 films nominated for Best Picture in the last 10 years.
I guess with 5 it would be 50.
Yeah,
so
with
my
5
math
would
is
have been 50,
faulty.
and then they increased it up to a maximum of 10.
Okay,
So yeah.
89 it is then.
89 films nominated for Best Picture in the last 10 years. Do you know, out of those, well, you do know because you and I had a quick chat about this, but in 89 films that have been nominated for Best Picture over the past 10 years, do you know, I'm going to throw this over to you, Corey, just to see if you can throw out a guess.
Okay.
How many movies, other than Black Panther, how many movies out of those 89 in 10 years that have been nominated for Best Picture had no other nominations in those other major categories? Wild guess.
5.
Less.
Uh-huh.
1. Just one other film in the last 10 years out of the last 89 films nominated for Best Picture. Only one other film has been nominated for Best Picture without any nominations in those other categories. Now, that was Ava DuVernay's wonderful film, Selma. That was in 2015. But in the last 20-plus years, other than Black Panther and Selma, do you know how many other films in the past 25 years have been nominated for Best Picture without a single one of those other major nominations? Again, 1. Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, which had a bunch of Academy Award nominations, but no nomination for director, screenplay, cinematography, or any acting. 3 films in the last maybe 150 films that have been nominated for Best Picture. Only 1 in the past 10, 2 in the past 20, 25 plus years. Has this ever happened? In a year when Black Panther, according to me, at least at any rate, with my own personal subjective opinion, was only the 3rd best comic book movie of the year, and yet it still gets a Best Picture nomination. Now, let me also throw a little wrinkle in this. lest you think, John's point is, since it didn't get any other of the other major nominations, that's why it doesn't deserve to be Best Picture. I'll tell you what. Selma also did not have that, and Lord of the Rings: Two Towers did not have that, and I fully supported both of those films getting nominations for Best Picture in their respective years. So I'm not saying that definitively, but it is such a statistical anomaly to have a film, not only of its year, but of the past 10 years, to be like one of the only ones, which does at least beg the question, so why did it get nominated? Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses that there was political agendas, nothing like that. Again, it happened with Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. It happened with Selma. So, and I'm not ascribing any political agenda to those two. I think those two films deserved Academy Award nominations. But it is such a wild number, Robert. I just found it fascinating. When you hear statistics like that, like, do you find that unusual, or do you think it's, whatever? How do you approach that?
Well, I think ever since the Academy has let more than 5 films be nominated for Best Picture, that there's been the Best Picture nominees have been skewed. And you know how there was all this talk this year, or actually last year, but for this year's Academy Awards, they were going to add a new category about most popular film.
Yeah.
I think since they have added the category of they've added more than 5 films.
Yeah.
They have definitively, they have essentially, or de facto, they have added a populist slant to Best Picture nominees that didn't exist previously. They have to fill out that roster. And that's why I thought, well, we need to have an award for the most popular movie. That's what they're doing with the other Beyond 5 nominees. So everything Beyond 5 is sort of, hey, it's a popular movie that made a lot of money and it was culturally significant, so let's acknowledge it for that reason. And I think that that's what's happening here. I mean, I think that, look, you know, movies are, I said earlier, they're cultural events.
Yeah.
And if a film can start the discussion and become a water cooler show and be something that is sort of shaping the conversation of our culture, that's a good thing. And that continues.
It's a fantastic thing.
It's a fantastic thing, and for that to continue on with Black Panther into the Best Picture race, I think more power to it, because it keeps that conversation going.
Right.
So I don't think it was a political nomination at all. I think it was a film that many people were aware of, and I think a lot of people, even voting members of the Academy, I think Black Panther might have been their first comic book movie. People older voters that had never gone to comic book films, that went, oh, pshaw, I don't want to see that. But they saw Black Panther and they were pleasantly surprised, like, huh. And that's why they voted for it.
And look, and let's be very clear, Black Panther's a damn good movie.
Yeah.
It's a real good movie. And I agree. Look, I disagree with the Academy's nomination of Black Panther just because I don't think it belongs there.
Right.
I think there were 2 other comic book movies that deserved that spot a little bit more, in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales, who I never even used to like Miles Morales until this movie. It's like, now I love Miles Morales. And of course, Avengers Infinity War, which on our poll, overwhelmingly by our readers and viewers, thought was the best. But that's the thing. I disagree with the nomination. I do not agree with this notion that it was a political move. Hey, look, there are a lot of movies every year that get nominated that maybe I don't think should, but I don't think it's a political move.
No.
And I don't think it's a political move here. And by the way, I should also point out, while I bitch and moan and complain like a little baby that, you know, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse should have got that spot, or that maybe Avengers Infinity War should have got that spot, it should also be pointed out that neither Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Avengers Infinity War, either of those films didn't have any of those major nominations either.
Right.
You know, Avengers Infinity War wasn't nominated for Best Director or Best Screenplay or Best Actor or Actress or cinema. Did it get? No, it didn't get cinematography. And now they did Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse. So while I complained that I think these two should have gotten a spot over Black Panther, well, they didn't get those nominations either. So again, I have a bit of a sports mind. I love statistics.
Right.
So seeing such a wild statistic like this just really made my jaw drop. And I just thought it was fascinating for conversation.